Hi everyone, welcome to DoubleSpeak. Today we're going to be talking about cancel culture, online outrage, and censorship. So, little story time. When I told colleagues and friends that I was going to, do this for the podcast, the first statement I got from them was, "यार किसी को offend मत कर देना या किसी को offend मत कर दियो." Because I think the whole perception behind this is कि we don't want to lose out on business, we don't want to lose out on work, and सबसे पहले गाली नहीं खानी किसी से, right? So the whole perception behind speaking online, putting out work online, being creative online is कि काम अच्छा हो ना हो, you don't want to get abused online, you don't want to get cancelled online, and you don't want to be at the receiving end of outrage. So I thought, why not dive into it and talk about why this might be happening. Another big reason I wanted to discuss this topic is because I saw that India, the world's largest democracy, has been battling it out on Twitter over the past few weeks about a woman's bikini and the color of it. Very interestingly, as such a huge economy and a population, we have so many issues on hand. I don't know how we got into talking about this and battling it out about this on Twitter. But online outrage looks like that. It's outrageous, if anything. Why is it so important to speak about cancel culture, online outrage, and censorship as artists or creatives? The thing about cancel culture or censorship is that it's taking away a lot of learning opportunities from not only creatives but also from the country's youth, right? If you're forcing someone to be creative in a particular direction only, then they're not going to be creative. You're just forcing them to pick, right? You're forcing them to self censor. Self censorship is a byproduct of censorship, which means that if I know that I've produced something and people are going to be outraged over it, or that people are going to be offended over it, and I'll have to censor myself anyway, then I'll try to produce work that doesn't have to be censored. मैं शुरू से ही ट्राई करूंगी कि ऐसा कुछ बने कि मुझे आगे जाके काटना ना पड़े, राइट? मुझे आगे जाके सेंसर ना करना पड़े कुछ भी. I don't have to edit my work that highly. So it leads to a lot of self censorship, a lot of doubt when you're doing anything creative. Other than that, right, there are fewer and fewer conversations online about anything that's controversial. Everyone says, stay away from controversy. There are a few topics you've been told ki parties mein you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about, religion, you don't talk about a lot of things that people are very personally attached to, which is fine, which is amazing. Respect everyone's opinions. But the fact that we can't have these discussions as the country's youth or as the country's future decision makers is interesting, because exposure is what leads to high quality decision making. If there's a coin and there are two sides to it, but I don't know there are two sides to it, मुझे लग रहा है सिर्फ side A ही है, or that there's only one side that exists, I have to pick and choose that side. How am I going to ever make an informed decision for myself, let alone other people? I need to know that there's side A and there's side B, and then I need to pick and choose for my own self, right? I need to be able to make that choice. And that's where we're getting hindered right now with censorship and with cancel culture or online outrage. All of these obviously being linked together. So if someone has an opinion that differs from your own, you're very free to criticize that opinion, right? That's what leads to healthy arguments, discussions, and debates. You can always say that, I see where you're coming from, or I don't see where you're coming from. I've had different experiences, perspectives, and I disagree. That's criticism, right? You can always say that I feel like you have this opinion, or you've only seen this side of the coin, you've only seen particular things in life, which is why it's leading up to this kind of a mental conditioning. Canceling someone for having an opinion that's different than yours is totally a different league of its own, right? कि मतलब मेरा opinion किसी से मिलता नहीं है तो मुझे इस इंसान से बात ही नहीं करनी. I saw a very interesting example while I was at college where if someone disagreed with particular people politically, what they do is they say it on social media कि if you lean towards this side, then remove me from your Instagram, right? Remove me from your social media. I do not want to interact with you. Now, of course, that kind of a reaction also comes from a particular view and a standpoint, but it's very likely that it's repressing conversations. I know a lot of people who ended up not disclosing their political leanings because they didn't want to lose out on friends, right? They didn't want to lose out on people around themselves, and they didn't want to be labeled the bad guys. So criticism is mainly for improvement, while cancel culture leaves no room for it. If you're canceling someone, you're ostracizing them. Now, ostracization is a very, very old societal concept. But with something like online outrage and digital social media, it's given us a lot more freedom in the sense that we are very free to ostracize people now. It's very easy to ostracize someone, right? It's very easy to create an online outrage about someone and just uh, boycott them. It leaves no room for improvement of content or mindset, and creatives are mostly at the brunt of it. They bear the brunt of it because as creators we put out content that has a lot of perspective, and if our perspective doesn't match with people, what happens is we not only are labeled wrong but labeled bad. Now there's a difference, right? If someone's doing something that's against your opinion, they're not always bad people. They're just probably growing up differently. They've seen things differently, right? There's a difference. Of course, morality and ethics come in here very heavily. किसी के क्या morals है, किसी के क्या ethics हैं. A lot of it depends on that as well. But you can't judge someone just because they lean towards a particular side, or maybe they have views that differ from your own. That is not going to lead to healthy conversations. Plus, any conversations that I've had with people who have differing opinions, or जिनके opinions मेरे से match नहीं करते, I've always learned something new, right? It's never changed my opinion drastically. I always have believed in what I believe in, right? But it's given me new perspectives as to why people might not believe in the same things. कि उसका पर्सपेक्टिव इतना अलग क्यों है. अगर किसी का पर्सपेक्टिव बहुत अलग है तो मुझे ये पता चल जाता है कि इस इंसान ने लाइफ ऐसे देखी है, या फिर इस बंदे को शायद ये पर्सपेक्टिव ही मिला है, यही मेंटल कंडीशनिंग मिली है. दे हैव नॉट सीन द सेम थिंग्स आई हैव सीन थ्रू माई लाइफ. So it gives you that perspective of why people are different, right? If you just stop at this person is different, you're never going to figure out that why, and that why is very important for you to figure out. The motive of communication and creative expression, right, has shifted. It's shifted from I want to express myself creatively, I want to put out creative work, and it's moved on to यार ऐसा मैं क्या बनाऊँ that I don't get cancelled on Twitter, और या मैं ऐसा क्या बनाऊँ that the audience doesn't get offended, या audience मुझे गालियाँ ना दे. Because it's become that easy. It's a comment and you can abuse and curse someone online. Let's talk about things that lead to cancel culture or online outrage. Why is it so easy to cancel someone or to create online outrage nowadays? The first point is that no physical confrontation is required. If you're talking about any woman's clothing online, you can very easily talk about any woman's clothing, the length of it, the obscenity of it, the color of it, and there are no physical requirements. If you have to go up to an actress and say the same thing, you don't have access, right? You only have that access online, and you will not have the physical courage to do it. So makes it pretty easy, right? Second thing, there's no physical consequences as well. If you're saying something wrong, you can just delete that comment, delete that tweet, delete that post, and that's about it. There's no repercussion you face for saying something wrong or offending someone, or cursing at someone. आप किसी को गाली भी दे रहे हो ऑनलाइन तो वो आप 2 सेकंड में डिलीट कर सकते हो. इट्स नॉट लाइक इट्स गोना स्टे इन देयर फॉर एवर अनलेस ऑब्वियसली यू गेट कैंसल्ड एंड न्यूज़ आर्टिकल्स एंड मीडिया पिक्स अप ऑन दैट. बट whole different scenario, right? If you're an audience member or if you're someone who's offended, बहुत easy है किसी को भी DMs में गाली देना, किसी को भी Twitter पे retweet करके गाली देना, right? And I'm not talking about people who are not well read. I'm talking about people who are well read as well. And they say very cruel and brutal and mean things online without thinking that there's a person on the receiving end of those things as well. That person has a family. Their family is probably reading those things as well. For example, sometimes when we put out posts, now we're an educational company, right? Sometimes when we put out posts, we get incredibly mean comments talking about our intelligence, or the fact that, you're an education company, you guys need to educate yourselves first. They don't know that there's a team working behind all that content as well, and that team's human and they can make mistakes as well, or that our perspective might differ from theirs. It's just that if it doesn't match with the particular opinion that the audience holds, or some members of the audience hold, then we're just cast as uneducated people, even though we run an education company. So it's pretty ironic there. Third point here is a huge reason why people engage in online outrage and cancel culture is it's very easy to get support online. If you have to gather 50 people on the streets and protest against something, it's very difficult. But online आपको 500 लोग भी बहुत आसानी से मिल जाएंगे किसी को गाली देने के लिए. So the whole ease and accessibility of social media has also turned into a disadvantage in its own sense. अगर आपको किसी आर्टिस्ट का काम नहीं पसंद आया, आप बहुत easily जाके बोल सकते हो कि this is not good work, and there'll be 5 people liking that comment, retweeting that comment and agreeing with you and saying all sorts of things. आप सड़क पे जाके किसी को बोलोगे, no one will care, right? So the kind of support you get even from those 5 people or 5 likes, that's very very instant and that's very gratifying, right? आपको लगता है कि someone supporting my opinion, so I should put out more of these opinions, and thus the cycle of gratification continues. People put out more abusive content, people put out more curse words, right? People say outrageous things more because they're still getting a community. That's the beauty of social media, ki whatever your opinion is, you'll get someone to support it. And that's also the worst part of social media. Whatever your opinion is, you'll get someone to support it regardless of whether it's worthy of being supported or not. Learning an outrage, right, or learning in cancel culture or censorship can never go hand in hand. You need a well informed audience who can make decisions. You don't want an audience that's only informed of the aspects you want them to be informed of. Again, if there's a coin I'm tossing, I need to know both sides of the coin. I need to know that there are two sides to the coin. I need to know that I can make a decision for my own self if I want to, right? Without being cancelled, without being boycotted online, without being abused and cursed online. The country's youth isn't going to learn from censorship, they're going to learn from acknowledgement, and they're going to learn from knowledge and choosing wisely. If you want the country's youth to learn how to make choices, you need to give them choices, right? Quality decision making comes from choices, it doesn't come from censorship ever. And what's the point of any culture if no one can learn from it or within it?